Okay, so hi folks. This is the first episode of the GSP Team Podcast. Something myself, Cillein and Ayshea were talking about doing for a very long time, and we're finally getting around to. It's going to be a regular feature, so keep an eye out for it. I suppose most of you know us, but I'm Matty Costello. I'm a coach here at GSP. I coach these two absolute savages here who are far better athletes than I am, but I'm a good coach, so I make up for it. And that's it. Like I said, most of you know us. Cillein?
Yeah, it's Groom. Do strongman for 5 years now, and also do strength conditioning coaching and strongman coaching.
Oh, that'd be me. So, Ayshea, Ullah, 5 times Ireland's strongest woman, current world's strongest OSG, world's strongest women's masters, and going back there to hopefully defend the title in 3 weeks' time. I run this gaff here, co-run it, I suppose, with this lad, and I do strength and conditioning with regular folks as well as athletes.
So the first topic we're going to talk about today, lads, and we're going to kind of stay on this novice and intermediate training agenda today. So we're going to talk about mistakes we made when we were at that stage, mistakes we see, and we're just going to chat back and forth about it. So yeah, we'll kick it off. I suppose bang straight into some of the mistakes we see in competitions. I suppose.
Well, also, what about where we came from?
Where we came from, yeah.
Like, you'll be the one who's been lifted longer than the rest of the side.
Yeah, so when I started off, the novices weren't really novices. My first competition was in Cork in 2013, I think. And the novices compiled of the giant Sean O'Hagan. I think Paul Dwyer, Keith Maher, and a lot of guys that went on to win Ireland's Strongest Man, within the next year or two. I think I was 21 at the time. They were absolute monsters. And going into that event, I was hoping to get a single rep with a log at 110. Now, this is a novices, and the log was 110 kilos for reps. There was nothing there to warm up on. You just go straight into this log. This is Glenn Ross from the show back in the day, and things really weren't at the stage there now. People can play now in warm-up rooms when the equipment isn't the exact same as it's going to be on the platform. We've all heard this, and it usually is, in fairness to novice and intermediate guys, because the guys at the elite levels competing are used to kind of not having warm-ups being rushed for cameras and everything else. You've been there and you've been there. OSG was a complete nightmare last year. There's 2 warm-up bars and about 70 people trying to warm up for a deadlift at the same time.
The ultimate was pretty nasty as well.
There was nothing. There was no warm-up, for Ireland's Strongest Man women, yeah. But so back then, the novice shows weren't what you'd call a novice show now. But it's all that was there, so we had to do it. I zeroed the log. I think I lifted 2 stones that day. I think I came last in the arm over arm truck pull. I came dead last. I was very poor, but the standard was so high, and the novices, like I said, weren't what they are. By the time injuries wrecked my body, and I was, after competing internationally and everything, and kind of on the downward spiral that I'm on now as an athlete, the novice competitions weren't really starting. I think we were probably part of the building of the novices. We've ran a lot of them, and great to see a load of other promoters doing the same thing now. But yeah, I suppose I did compete as a novice, but there weren't novices shows as there are now.
Do you have I know it's great that we've got novices now, and we do see the other side of where novices are kind of giving out about this, that, and the other, and they don't appreciate or realise where the sport's come from, which is really good to hear it from yourself. Do you think you benefited from not having that novice aspect, of just having to get in and do it?
It forced me to get strong and made me work really hard because I really wanted to be in the sport and I really wanted to compete. But I think it was a detriment to my body. Because like I said, I was doing all these comps, trying to lift weights that I probably hadn't lifted before. That comp with log was 110 for reps. I think the best I'd done in training was 100. And I was like, fuck, I'm going to give this my best and hope I peaked really well. But at the time, I really knew nothing about peaking like I knew now, so I made a shite of it. But I tried to lift that log, and I just couldn't do it. And I think if there were some lower level novice first timer comps to ease into things, but I wouldn't say if I had stayed at that level too long, it would have been a detriment as well, because you get used to doing well in these lower level competitions and you're happy with yourself. Whereas you have to get out of your comfort zone to do well. So I think if there were 2 or 3 of them shows I could have started with to learn as well. When you're learning at a competition where you can't lift any weights, or you're really struggling to do anything, it's not the best place to learn, but it does force you to train harder. And again, that can be negative too, because I pushed way too hard, way too soon, so that I could compete because the level was so high to start at. If I had a lower barrier to get in there, it might have been better for me. Like, I probably wouldn't have wrecked my body as bad as I did. Because by the time I turned 24, like, I was destroyed. But I also did some other stupid things, like going back and forth between. Yeah, so I would do 3 maybe powerlifting meets a year, and I'd probably do 4 or 5 strongman comps a year. You know, it was way too. Yeah, it was way too much. I learned from my mistakes that other people don't have to, so that ye haven't had to do the same thing. You know.
I suppose that's where it's come from when you've actually with us. I suppose even with myself, when I was powerlifting first, it was a case of, okay, dabble between the two for a year's sake, and then pick something, choose which one you're going to be in.
Yeah, like, even like, you know, I said it to you before. Remember, you want to do the abs series or the abs pro like a year ago, and I was like, you gotta just stick to what you're doing, because if you want to be great at something, you want to be really good at something, you can't be going back and forth. You know, like, once lads in even other sports say they're playing soccer and hurling, you know, you don't just do the two of them into your later years of your sport and expect to be really good. You have to pick one of them. I know strongman and powerlifting kind of link in. We're both lifting weights and you're trying to lift maximally, but they don't. Because if you're putting all your energy into powerlifting, you're forgetting about your strongman for 12 weeks. And your fitness suffers, your movement suffers, everything kind of suffers in that sense. Like, young Derek here, he just done the first timer's strongman comp. He's doing a powerlifting meet now after this. Next abs comp, whatever date it is in November. And I've said to him, he was, you know, humming and hawing about doing the Cerberus Cup, or the GSP Cup, whatever we're going to call it, and the abs, or the IPF comp out in March. I don't know what date it is. And I just said to him last, I said, you need to decide what you're doing and stick with it. I said, don't come near me again until you've figured out what you want to do. I don't want to hear it, like, and that's it. Yeah. So he came to me last night and said, strongman, he's going to do the Cerberus. Yeah, it is good. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's important to decide on what you're doing, because dabbling back and forth like me and you did it's not great.
You didn't have a novice comp either, did you?
For my first comp was the one that you done.
Cerberus Cup, was it?
No. It was one out in the equestrian centre.
Right.
Yeah, it was like. Yeah, it was the same, like, because me and Matt McKeegan started the same day.
That's right.
He was the only one in the opens, and I was under 105s, but I think those weights for that competition were good. I remember it was like a 160 deadlift for reps. It was an 80 kilo axle for reps. I think it was like maybe 80 kilos a hand, farmers. There was an arm over arm, and then it was like 100 kilo stone for reps at the end. Like, I think it was maybe about 7 in the category. I came third. But I feel like with those weights, like, I think I done like maybe like 16 reps on the deadlift and maybe 7 or 8 on the axle. But it was nothing, you know, like, I was able to lift the weights, but it was still challenging as well. It got me a taste for it. Whereas, like, you know, as you said, with your experience there, like, you know, not being able to lift some of the weights, that could be quite discouraging for a lot of people first kind of starting off. Like, but then it was kind of like after that, it was just, again, there was no real novice or intermediates, because, like, again, you were probably the first one to actually do a proper novice and intermediate one. And after that, then, so I was only like 21, 22. There wasn't even a junior category. It was just straight away then just competing in the opens, and then, you know, worked my way up through there.
Yeah, no, like that's a really good point. I think because a lot of people, if they went to a comp and they were 0 and everything, or 0 in a few events and came last, it would probably discourage them from the sport. Yeah, and they probably, you know, there's a chance they won't come back. You know, and that's no good for our sport. If we want the sport to grow, we have to have them lower level ones, ease people up into it. Like, you know,
and again, that doesn't mean to stay at the lower levels as well at the same time. Like,
yeah, because that's where the problem is. I suppose we're going about novice and intermediates, is where, I suppose, talk about that more later, but just trying to get the balance right, because it's all very well if you can't lift the weight, but then you might get someone in novices who does 23 reps of something, and it's like, oh wow, you're fantastic. Well, no, that fucking weight obviously was too light. And then if you're continuing to say, well, I'm actually a novice, and stay within a novice weight class, like, it's useless. You know, at some point, you know, if you want to progress, you want to stay in the sport, you're going to have to step up. And there will be a time, I think, when you're going to go, I may 0 something. And I remember 2017, first Worlds, North Carolina, never felt a weight I hadn't been able to budge. That car deadlift, that thing was nailed to the floor. But it taught me, you know, going, okay, if I want to do this, I've got to get stronger at this or that or the other. But I think that's where we have to get that balance, I suppose, and not
So you
understanding.
You're a fairly accomplished athlete at that point, like, so you've done you were at the
powerlifting.
Yeah, but so you're at kind of a world championship level at that point, like, so it's kind of like
that was by chance, though. I think at that stage, like, I suppose with that, the back of that is like I didn't get a novice chance. The first ever proper Ireland Strongest Woman qualifier that was run here was with Matt and Pete O'Connor, and I will say this to the day I die. They are the people who started and grew. Particularly grew, like you had Nikki Whelan down in Wexford who was doing some strong women comps as well. But the two that pushed this forward and started the proper legacy of Strong Women Ireland or Irish Strong Women is Matt and Pete O'Connor. And they got that. I think Dave Warner had been doing through Renegade. Had he done a Strong Woman, an Ireland Strongest Woman at that stage, or he hadn't? No, but you'd got chatting to him. We'd gone up there.
Yeah, to get a tie-in for a qualifier for internationals.
So
in City Gym, was it?
Yeah, so it was running City Gym, and basically it was just like we just put the word out to the powerlifting community and anyone else who wanted to lift, and we had bodybuilders come down, we had CrossFitters,
great show. I remember that was what got strongman.
Danielle came down that day, didn't she? Sarah Meehan came down, Mary, what's her face from Ballina as well. It was really good.
It was a great show. It was a really great show.
We dragged in whatever we could.
Yeah. To do with the competition in the car park outside Galway City Gym.
Yeah. I think that's what really amazing, because I seen bits of strongman on TV and that, but when it was like, seeing these women carrying kegs and like throwing things around the place, it was just it was incredible. It was so exciting, like. And again, I think a lot of people, when they hear strongman, they think they're not going to like it, but you hear what a lot of people actually go to watch it, they're surprised about actually how entertaining it actually can be.
But even from the perspective of actually doing it as a woman, and we've kind of said this along the lines of when I'm trying to bring women in, even in here from a basic lifting level, is how the impact it has on you, right? So the fact that then I've got, say, there's one particular girl who's been training here and managed to finally, after 18 months, get her to do a strong woman comp. She's going to do 2 in a row, and like she's a phenomenal athlete. Again, she wants to be able to do everything, and like I've explained to her that if you want to if you really like it and you want to focus on it, you're going to have to focus on getting stronger for strong women, and but she likes to do triathlons. She was an ex-rugby player, she's done all kinds of sports, so she's very athletic and very competitive. But again, having to explain to her, if it's just going to be for fun, fine, but don't expect to just be exceptional. No, she might at this level because she's a very, very good athlete, but that's not going to continue on, and it's just sitting in a novice level. If you just want to dip in and out, that's different. But if you want to progress, you're going to have to specialize and go, okay, I'm going to dedicate myself to this. But so from a novice perspective, for us, we didn't have that. We had that qualifier, Irish Strongest Woman. We didn't have any other lead in. I don't think Dave was doing Renegade New Bloods for us. There was no real novice.
I don't know, to be honest.
I can't remember at that point.
Pete ran that, and in fairness, that was all Pete.
It was actually the year before that, the charity comp. That's what it was, December.
Yeah,
we ran the charity comp.
Dragged in powerlifters.
We literally dragged in powerlifters.
Whatever we could find.
Yeah, from around the country.
And then the following year we ran that.
It was the Islands, and that was a qualifier, the first qualifier for OSG, and that was what Olivia won and went over to Doncaster for. It was
just World's Strongest
Woman. And it was World's Strongest Woman. There was no weight categories. There was no nothing. Olivia had been powerlifting. She was a junior, and she was literally thrown into the heap with Kirsten, Donna, Olga, Lydia.
It was crazy.
It was fucking nuts. Andrea, some of the best women athletes in the world, who were basically the best then and still are reigning champions, and killing it in different weight categories as well. Yeah. That's what we had. And when I hear people giving out about, we don't have this, we don't have that, and we're really trying to bring it with Strong Women Ireland and GSP systems. There's a huge amount of work going into trying to get novices to give you the chances that we didn't have.
Yeah, I don't think they realise how lucky they
are. I don't think they do. In the end, I suppose for us to have competitions, we ended up going over. So we had that, and then there was no other Strong Women competition really here. I think we went up. Myself and Michelle went and did Dave Warner's River Fest. That's right. We did that, and then there was really nothing else. So we said, right, okay, we're going to go over to the log deadlift championships, Europeans in London. And it was a week after Eddie Hall had pulled to 500, but pulled to 500. And again, there was myself, Olivia, Karen Barry, and Ursula. So 4 of the Irish girls, and we were all powerlifters, but we went. And I was up there against Donna Moore, Andrea Thompson, and I was but you know what? It gave me that base level. I knew I wasn't going to win anything, but it was the first time I'd actually not really come top 3 in anything. And I think I came 7th, maybe.
Yeah. And that comes down to, again, putting yourself out of your comfort zone.
Putting yourself there.
And like for novices, no matter, like if they're competing novices now,
experience, they can do it here with some of the best in the country, but it's still not going to be as intimidating or daunting as what it is to go over to Arnold's in Barcelona to try and give you, or run out with the lads here and not tell them because I couldn't get a heavy comp.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is, I suppose, that understanding that there are so much more opportunities here now, particularly for the women as well. I know for the lads, but particularly for the women, there is a way more opportunities. And you've got lads now that are doing like Fringy's doing stuff down in Cork. TK's been doing stuff. There's stuff going on up in the north. So, you know,
the length and breadth of the country.
Like. Talking about the length and the breadth of the country, we start them on a rant now, right? Is one of the other things you get is people not wanting to, at novice or beginning, going, I don't have the equipment to train on. Or I don't want to travel. Like, how many weekends? Every weekend we were either going up to Ballina.
Before we knew you.
Or up to RV up in Ballymena to train on equipment.
We went, Ballina's about a 2-hour drive from here. We went up there every Sunday for about 8 weeks in the lead up to that comp in America that we did. Winter wreckage. Yeah, and I'd worked security the night before. You'd pick me up in the morning. I'd fucking barely be out of bed, stroll into the car, probably have a nap on the way up again. And like we'd get up to Ballina and just go at it for a few hours, training and home. It was a whole day. Like it was a day dedicated to training.
So I think from that perspective, novices have to understand that they actually don't have that much to deal with.
And opens and fair, that's everybody.
Everybody. But if you're thinking of starting off, around the country now, there's far more gyms that have strongman equipment because CrossFit has brought it to the forefront. So a huge amount of, like, I suppose, non-commercial gyms would have probably a sandbag and probably some farmers.
And look, just to go a little deeper into that, if you don't have the equipment in your gym, right, what we did in Galway City Gym years ago before we owned this place, I asked the owner or the manager there, could I store some equipment? You can get sandbags he said yes, right? You get sandbags fairly cheap and you can get a set of farmer's walks fairly cheap. If you can store them in the corner of a gym and use them, there's so much you can do with that, guys. You can kind of train stone loads with a sandbag. You can do your load and you can train triple extensions with it. You can do sandbag shoulder, you can do sandbag carries. Farmers obviously have farmer's walks and holds. And like you can get really, really strong and good at moving by just doing that. So if you have that in a commercial gym, you have tons. Like we were lucky when we were in City Gym. He actually had a store yoke in like this hallway thing. We'd have to carry it downstairs every time, put it together outside, standing on boxes and benches, bring all the weights downstairs. So if anyone from Galway, like Galway City Gym, it's a really, really big flight of stairs going up to that fucking place. And you're carrying all the weights down and back up again every single time you wanted to do yoke or farmers. But we did it. We did it. And like, so if you're in a commercial gym and you can't, you say you have no equipment, just ask your manager there or the owner if you can store a couple of bits there. One sandbag and a set of farmer's walks, and you can do loads of that.
So much. So much.
So it doesn't have to be an equipment thing or a travel thing.
No. Then you don't just travel, you don't drive, whatever.
I feel like people, a lot of people get so caught up on the equipment because like even like the equipment you have doesn't really make that much of a difference because you go to the competition and it can be completely different. Like,
oh my god,
there's been so many times where it's just like like if you practice on the same log in your own gym and then you go down to the competition and then the handles might be like an inch out and then that completely changes the way it feels about it. Like, so it's just like if you are like a novice intermediate, it's like don't get so caught up and I need to use like the best kind of equipment or this kind of equipment or certain things like that because you're never going to get that guarantee coming into competition. And especially, again, when it comes to having your warm-ups, there's times where like I've had to maybe warm up for a Viking press or a log, but just using a barbell. And you'd have to clean the barbell up, and you can be doing that outside as well in the wind and everything. Like, so it's just like don't let like equipment be an excuse as not to train or not to progress because like there's always ways to work around it. I
suppose that also links into then about like say time we've had with event changes.
Absolutely,
And we actually, I think there was a comment recently about an event change, and it actually wasn't really an event change. It was the event was the same, but the piece of equipment that was being used was different. But everyone was consistently using the same thing for that competition. But understanding that event changes can and do happen. And we had it at Ultimate Strongman at the Islands. We've had it. If you had event changes, you would have had event changes. How many event changes over the flipping years?
God,
so
when I first started, like Glenn was notorious for changing the whole competition on the day. Like, we used to say like there's no point actually training the events he gives you until like 4 weeks out, because you need to train everything.
Yeah.
Because God knows what you're going to get on the day. Don't mind the same bit of equipment that he says he's going to have. The whole event could be different.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think you should let like an event change like throw you off, because I remember the first time I went to Ireland Strongmen, and I got asked. I was 21, so 22, and I got asked on I think 3-week notice, and like I was training in Sligo at the time, and I showed up and they had to change the tire flip was supposed to be first, but the weather had to put in a 450 kilo yoke. I hadn't even done like a 300 kilo yoke at this point, like, but then there was other people there complaining that yoke was put in, and like some people walked out in the day. And it's just like, if you like, this is a sport of strength, like, it shouldn't really matter what's thrown at you. So it's just like, again, as Matty said, you need to be good at everything. So if it really comes down to it, then event change does come in. Like, everyone's in the same boat. Like no one's kind of prepared for that. Like, so just don't let that be like, oh, like I'm not going to do, or I'm not going to bother, because again, like if you really want to be good at this, you should be good at everything. So event change shouldn't make that much of a difference.
Absolutely. I'm a big, like, with our comps, there's very, very rarely been an event change. I think with weather up in the Keegans this year, we had to do an event change, but that was weather, and everyone was delighted to get inside out of the rain. I'm a big believer that like promoters now should be able to pick their events, and that should be it. I don't see why there should be massive changes, but at all levels, and to be honest, I see it more at the opens and like elite levels. To be honest, like in international levels, there are changes, and you have to be ready for it. So again, like as Cillein said, strong is strong. Like strong. Be strong and be ready. Just go for it.
I mean, it's not like in powerlifting where they're going to throw in like an overhead press or something like that. I mean, that's totally
you're doing what you're doing.
Powerlifting, squat, bench, deadlift, but strongman is like like realistically, a promoter can just make up an event and then just put that into it. Like look at like Rogue when they made the Wheel of Pain. Nothing like that has ever been seen before. But that's what makes the sport so great, is because it can be literally anything. It's not one set defined thing. Like, everything changes, and like you've got to adapt to it. And I think that's really kind of like how you see who's the best athlete, because they can keep calm under those kind of situations and still actually progress forward.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, and like coming up to Ireland's for the 2E this year, I had you train events that weren't listed on the event list for you. And like, there's a good reason for that, because we know a particular promoter is liable to change events. So we want to be ready for anything. And like, for all the novices out there, if you're going to a competition, you've got these 5 set of events. Say there isn't a sandbag in there or a farmer's walk or hold. They're events that are really easy for promoters to put in if there's a need for an event change, because equipment can break as well. And like weather can change things. So if you've got a sandbag, coming up to any competition, I would advise doing some carries, some speed runs, and some shouldering, because I know we that's what we picked. We're like, geez, sandbag's really handy here. Let's just use that as our changed event if it's not already in the competition. Farmer's hold is really handy to throw in there as well. So have your grip strong all year round.
Grip should always be strong.
Grip should always be strong anyway. But like, it's no harm. Be sure, lads. Be sure it's strong. Don't avoid it. And like, I think one of the biggest mistakes I see in strongman, and like we've took on some novice and intermediate guys recently, when they were coming up to competition, not only do they only train the competition, say the 5 events that were coming up for 3 or 4 weeks, they dropped their accessories. They didn't squat because there was no squat in it. It's absolute madness. How do you get your whole body strong if you're only training 5 events? It's not enough. If you're at a novice intermediate level, what takes you to the next level is getting statically stronger in all areas, in your squat, your press, and your deadlift. Now, if you just ignore your squat or you ignore certain press variations because they're not in the next competition, say you have a dumbbell coming up and all you're training is dumbbell, what about fucking the other side? Because most people only use one side. That's going to get weaker if that's all you're doing for 4 weeks. You have to be able to train the whole body all year round so that you're strong all year round and you're continuously getting stronger. Like it's the biggest mistake I see. I think we've done that with Yi coming into some big competitions where you train very specifically, you drop a lot of accessories, but you're a 410 kilo deadlifter, you're a 250 kilo deadlifter as a female. You got such massive raw bases that we can actually do that. No one competing as a novice in Ireland today has that base. They cannot afford to drop all their accessories and say their squat if it's not coming up. You have to do this all year round.
Do you think as well, some of it, we touched on this before, that there's a laziness if you're not being coached? Or if some coaches, I think, are lazy as well. Like,
I think it's laziness and ego. So I think like a lot of people see like, like you lifting natural stones and like carrying yokes all around is a cool thing, and it is cool. But but it's like you've got to be strong to do those things, and it's just like by doing yoke all the time or doing like stones all the time, like that can only take you so far. Like I said, like it's more about doing the compound lifts, like it's about doing like squat, overhead, deadlift, and everything. And it does surprise me the amount of strong women in the country who actually don't do any form of squats. They just completely leave it out because like, oh, it's never going to come in. But it's just like it is such a fundamental lift to do, and it carries over to everything else. Like, so it's just like, I just know, like, I have seen a few people where it's just like they go into the gym and then they just like every time they go into the gym, it's like doing a competition or it's just like an event day as well. Like even like we don't even do event days. Like it's like our events are put towards the end of the training at the end of the session when you're fatigued and all that. Like, and it's just like so many people just neglect the the fundamental building blocks of this and just focus on like like the glitz and the glamour of it. And then on the day of the competition, like some of those people, they zero everything then, and they wonder why they've zeroed everything because they've been, I've been doing this every week, but like that doesn't mean you're actually going to be strong.
Exactly. Yeah.
What probably happens there is their readiness levels are actually going down. Yeah. Because they're probably getting weaker over the course of a few weeks. Totally. Technically, they might be getting better, but technique will only take you so far. Yeah. Like if you've got really good technique in a yoke, that's great. But if you can only squat 120 kilos, how heavy of a yoke can you pick up and carry? Like, it's not going to get you that far. Like, no.
But even down to the level of if you're not even doing like simple core exercises. Do you know what I mean? Like the amount of people, the basic level of it. And I actually heard someone say to me, someone told me most recently, I can't remember who it was, but that the person who had been training them was basically saying to them, you don't need to do extra core because if you're squatting and deadlifting, you're using your core. That's enough. It's enough. And I was like, are you fucking serious? Like,
and I think that's even like I've heard that from like a lot of people in powerlifting, where like just like I've heard enough. You might not be top level powerlifting, but a lot they just think just doing the heavy like bracing on their deadlifts and squats, like, and it's just like your core is like that's not only are you going to get stronger from it, but it's like injury prevention as well at the same time.
Exactly.
Like, it's going to stop you from. It's going to keep you keeping your form correct throughout the lifts. And everything. It's just like it's the center of your body. So the fact that you feel like you can get away without training it, it's silly. And you see those people when they do their squats and deadlifts, their core in the form starts breaking. And it's just like you need to like put your ego aside, pull things back, and like focus on the basics. Like what do you do with my deadlift? Like my deadlift form was terrible for so long. I had no understanding of actually how to deadlift properly. And if I kept going that way, it'd only bring me so far. Like we spent like 4 months, and I don't think I went over 140 kilos for like those 3 or 4 months just to actually focus on things properly. But then once you get it, and like once I got it, then it just it flew up. Everything kind of came together.
Like you're like a really unique case of someone who was really patient to let me say, Cillein, no, we're pulling things back really far, and we're staying light for like how are you so patient? Because when I was your age at that time, I didn't have that patience either.
When did you actually do that?
2 years ago.
Okay, so you were you basically a novice,
like Well, I've been doing training for 5 years, like, so I've
done. Were still fairly. I'm just trying to go by the basis of you saying like patience, right? So if you're brand new into it, and you're like, fuck it, I don't want to take that time. I want to go and I want to do this. I think it's understanding that even up to 2 or 3 years into the journey, and I had the similar issue with the deadlift. We had to peel it back. That even at that stage, we're still learning. We're still having to sometimes pull things back. So as a beginner or a novice or even an intermediate, I suppose you would have been an intermediate, let's say, even though you were doing bigger competitions.
Still an intermediate.
Your experience levels
were that
an intermediate. Totally. And knowing at that stage that you had to pull things back and have that patience, that if you want to be the best, because that's one thing I see as well with a lot of novices and beginners, and they're like, I'm going to be world's strongest man, I'm going to be world's strongest woman next year. And actually Loz made a good point about this. It's actually very insulting to people, I think, who are at the top level because they didn't fucking do it overnight. And unless you're a massive outlier that's been working away in a cave, I'm sure there is someone out there that's going to come and do it one day. But generally to sit there and go, I've done fuck all, I've been in the gym for a bit and I've thrown a log around and a bit of farmers, and my mate says I'm strong, so therefore now I'm going to be island's strongest whatever or world's strongest whatever. Like, it's
you gotta be realistic,
patience, and knowing at times you have to pull it back.
So I remember like when I started training here, and like I was always bigger than most people, I was always stronger than most people, but Like I didn't come to this gym with like the intention of like being Ireland's strongest man or becoming a professional strongman athlete. Like I mainly came here just because like I wanted to discipline myself, and just because like the way things were in my own life, I just like recklessness and everything. I just wanted structure, and I think if I came in here with the mindset of I want to be world's strongest man, I want to be a professional athlete, I don't think I would have progressed as quickly as I would, because
kicked out
you would, because like I feel like some people, even like, cause I work in the health club store, and you get like some people starting off, and it's just like they're here and they want to get up here and they want to do it in one big jump, like they just want to get there, like, and it's just like you're never going to do that, like, so it's I'm pretty grateful, like, you know, I guess with the situation I was in, I would just want to come in just for discipline. That was the only, and it wasn't really until after I went to Ireland Strongest Man first that I was like, you know, maybe I've actually got a pretty good chance of it. And then it was just like, okay, maybe I'll just win Ireland Strongest Man, and like that'll be it. But then as it went on, I was just like, you know, like this is, you know, push it to the world, like, you know, to a world kind of limit. Like, but again, it's just like, especially if you're novice intermediate, don't like get so caught up on the end goal that you're like missing all the fundamental stuff that you're supposed to be doing, because even if you rush yourself up there, you're not going to last very long. Like you're probably, your injuries or like your conditions probably going to catch up with you, and then it's just like all the time you've wasted on like things being really crummy, you know, it could be put on to like, you know, better use.
Yeah. I think like, again, like back to people want to skip to the top level, right? And I think back to the point about people training at events constantly rather than doing all the basics. I think people listen to the top guys and how they train, and they try to emulate that because they want to get there. But what they're not understanding is that the top guys, say like Adam Bishop, Eddie Hall, you know, all them top tier strongmen. I have heard them give advice before on how they train and what they do. But what people are missing out on is Adam Bishop didn't get where he is, or Eddie Hall didn't get to where he was by training the way they do now. They first put in the groundwork, like Cillein did, on the technique. They put all the base work in, they got all their static lifts up to a certain point while working on technique in other areas. You know, you got to really understand where you are and what you need to be doing at that time. I think you've done a really good job of actually being patient and like taking the advice and all that and doing all of that. Like you didn't just try and skip ahead to the top.
No. So like, I remember when I first came in there, like I was struggling to squat 125 kilos for like a couple of reps. Like it was genuinely killing me. Like, and you know, like now, you know, like at UK's, well, I suppose UK's one proper squat, but you know, getting over like 22 reps at about 250 kilos. Like, but you know, again, it's at the same time, like if I walked in here, like, you know, struggling with 125 and tried to like jump up to be kind of hitting 170, like, you know, something's going to break, like something's going to get injured, like, and you see some people with their training lifts, and it's kind of scary to see the weights that they're attempting, and like even for like you know, silly things that like maybe like a bench over row, you see some people doing it and at a ridiculous at weights that I wouldn't even be doing it at. Their form is kind of all over the place, and it's just like I will be kind of worried about some people like actually hurting themselves because like they're ignoring so much the basics and lifting weights like they absolutely have no right to be lifting.
Yeah, absolutely. People are pushing way too hard, way too quickly. Yeah. Like your 410 deadlift was a 40 kilo PB, but you've probably had the ability to pull around 400 for at least a year now. Yeah. You know, but we took our time and we built, and you know, you're taking steps back on technique and working on other areas, and it didn't happen. This wasn't a 40 kilo in a day PB. No. This is at least a year and a half in the making. Yeah, at least. Maybe 2 years in the making. Actually, it's about 5 years in the making. Yeah, at least. You know, when you think of all the technical work that was put in and everything else. Everyone wants that instant gratification, and they want to get better now, and they want to quick, and they want to know what you're doing to get there. But what you're doing now to peak to get to that lift is totally different to what novice intermediate guys need to be doing now. Because
what you say, like if somebody felt like they could pull 400, they'd probably just do it in the gym just to prove it to themselves. And it's just like fair enough, like just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And it's just like, you know, one thing a lot of people don't realize is like, as well as training your muscles, you're training your central nervous system. So if you're going into the gym and if you really hit your 100% in the gym, like your central nervous system is going to go straight back down, and you got to like build that back up. Like, so like even like with our training sessions, like we don't need, you know, like 80, maybe 90% depending on the where you are in the training program. But it's just like, you see some people and it's like they're trying to max out like maybe every month or so, like, and it's just you're running yourself into the ground if that's the case. And I know, like, you know, this is a sport about strength and, you know, you should be strong and all that, like, but it's just wait until like it actually matters. Exactly. Because you see some people where it's like, you know, like you might pull maybe 400 in the gym, but then, you know, like they might only get maybe like 370 in competition. It's just like, well, what was the point of that gym lift like?
Well, what's happening there is they're grooming their ego, first of all.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're testing and training.
Yeah.
Training isn't for testing, it's for training.
For training, yeah.
It's building. You should be building your strength in the gym. You should be working on your technique in the gym. And you should be working on all the other, you know, capacities that you need to work on, like your fitness, even your conditioning, all that stuff. But they're doing their best. They're testing in the gym when they should be testing at the competition.
Yeah.
So rather than building in that session, they're just testing. That's a wasted session for me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't understand the point of testing in the gym.
No.
It makes no sense because you're leaving your best in the gym, then you go to competition, you can't do it, you lose the competition because of it. What was the point of that?
Yeah.
You know, we have a new guy on he competes open, you know, experience-wise, he's fairly new, like he's probably really again, like we were saying, intermediate level, like you were a few years ago, intermediate level as far as experience goes. And like really bad habit of just testing in the gym all the time. So every week, be patient. And like I'm using you as an example all the time. Like Cillein got where he is by being patient. Yeah. So every week, every other week, I'm, you know, be patient. You know, don't skip ahead and do anything heavier because I know you want to be more like Cillein, and I'm using that all the time. Like, and just you're a great example for me now to be able to use with clients.
Be like Cillein.
But it's not be lifting heavy like Cillein. It's be patient like Cillein.
So I feel like people just see where like people are now, and they don't actually appreciate the amount of effort and work that actually went behind doing it. Like,
so that's again, I think that's what will always determine who will become one of the best.
One of the best, yeah.
And who's just going to do it recreationally. But I think what you need to work out is what you want to do. Do you want to do it just recreationally for the crack? That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, totally.
You don't work away, but for your own body benefit, do it the right way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't just say I'm going to jump in and do this fucking competition and I'm just going to max out on everything, and you know. But that I think is a difference for anyone who's a beginner or a novice or an intermediate, is to understand that if you want to be where we are or where Donna is or where you know Big Z is or whoever, do you know what I mean? You need to understand it's a journey and that there are multiple steps and multiple facets to get there. It isn't just a case of watching a fucking YouTube video. Somebody had actually spoken to me yesterday and said that somebody contacted them and said, would they be able to run through log, stone, yoke, basically strongman events with this person? And I'm like, it actually annoys me because I'm like, do you actually think it's that simple to just run through these events to show you how they work? Because it's way more. Maybe that's just me being ignorant about it. I don't know, or just the love I have for the sport. That I don't think it's a case of just me. I can come in here and you can have a quick run through things, and now you're an expert. A, people who then think they're an expert on the fucking sport and can go and teach it to other people, or B, it means I can just jump into. There's very few people, and like I said, I've had the odd person that will come in here and they'll take to a log straight away. They'll take to a pick of a sandbag. There'll be naturals at stones, but it doesn't mean say that they're going to be strong enough to do the whole event. But they still need to train. They still need to have a better understanding, technique and everything. And I think it's just that sometimes that approach that people have really kind of irks me on it.
So I feel like people
there's so much more behind it.
As well, it's like you kind of forget like this is an extremely dangerous sport to do.
Oh, absolutely.
It is really like any of us, you know, we could walk into the gym and not walk back out like. And I feel there's a lot of people again, they don't respect the weight and they don't respect the movements that they're actually doing. Like, and you know, if you go in laxy daisy and being kind of cocky about it, like, you know, that could be, you know, that really could be your downfall. And even if you are somebody who just wants to do it recreationally and, you know, just to go have the crack, you still need to take a safe approach to this. Like, you know, I said, like, don't be maxing out in the gym all the time. Do your core work, do your accessory work, focus on like doing things properly, because, you know, it's as if, you know, even when I was playing something like rugby, like, you know, if you don't tackle somebody correctly, you're going to hurt yourself. And I feel like, luckily enough, there aren't that many injuries in this sport because, you know, a lot of people do them right. But, you know, it just takes a couple of Egypts really to kind of go out there and, you know, absolutely cream themselves.
But like, there aren't many injuries generally.
Luckily.
But when there are, they can be huge.
Like
we've seen Tara Gleason's leg break
last
year.
That's
a good example of walking into the gym and not walking back out.
Or even seen there was a video where some guy was like loading a 180 kilo stone, got up, dropped it, and crushed completely crushed the bottom part of his leg.
Look at Loz.
Yeah.
Shally, Achilles tendon rupture at Worlds.
Ruptures, yeah.
Biceps.
Biceps,
gone.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, it's a dangerous sport.
It is, yeah.
No, like rugby's a dangerous sport if you want. Every sport has its thing, but you wouldn't necessarily just run out onto a rugby pitch thinking that you can do all of the things that a rugby player does. So why do you think you can come in and throw a lump of steel over your head or lumps of concrete over a bar?
Yeah.
It's just a bit crack.
That's a good point.
You know?
So that leads to the other thing of like the guys that train strongman too specifically versus like the guys who train statically and don't do events at all. If you don't do any moving and then you think you can just come in and do all the moving events in a competition. I've seen it. We've all seen like bodybuilders or massive powerlifters come in and like do really crap in novice comps because they can't move and they have no fitness whatsoever.
Like you could be an amazing powerlifter. You could have like a massive total, but that does not mean you're going to be a good strongman.
No. You definitely can't just come in and do it.
No.
Disrespect the weights, as you said. Like
no.
I think, like we said, it'd be far easier for you to go from strongman to powerlifting than powerlifting to strongman.
Totally.
And that's what I love about strongman. Like you could go into a powerlifting meet and put up a really good total any day of the week. With just a little bit of a taper and a little tiny peak and a bit of a taper. 3 weeks, you can put up a good total. You can put up a good total. But a great powerlifter can't do that in strongman. They can't just come in and hit a good five events and come really well in a competition.
Because one thing about being strong, but then it's like being strong safe, and when it comes to like moving things, like and like knowing how your body. I think it's a lot of people. They just go through the motions without actually taking time to actually understand how their body should feel as they're moving. Like, and I think that's one thing that kind of helped me a lot, was just like taking the time just to actually focus how everything feels and everything moves, just so when things start to get a bit heavier, if something doesn't feel right, I know it doesn't feel right. And it's not in case, because sometimes like when you lift heavy, it's just like, oh, maybe it's just because it's heavy it feels this way. It's like, no, you should like be able to build things up to the point where like it should be running, like 100 kilos should be able to running like as would be at maybe 350 kilos. And again, I feel like a lot of people, they just don't really think about what they're doing, and they just kind of just throw themselves at it. And that's, I feel like that's a quick way to actually hurt yourself. Yeah.
So there's the two extremes there. There's the lads who are just training events, but need to train more statically, or can keep their static movements in there. And then there's the guys who just train statically.
Or then there's people then who don't do enough accessory work. I feel like like a lot of people, like when they go into the GSP style of training, are shocked at the amount of volume work that's put, even not just accessory work, the compound lifts as well. Hitting, start the training block, you'd be hitting maybe 3x8 on your deadlifts 2 weeks in a row.
I literally have anyone new that comes in, I have a spiel from now, and it's literally, you're going to die for the first 2 weeks, right? But if you can get through those 2 weeks, it will be. And it's going to be beneficial for you. And funny enough, I've got some new females that have come on board with me, and they would never have done the type of training we have. And I actually always use this anecdote of the first leg session that Matt ever gave me. And I was training in Galway City Gym. And I literally stood at the top of the stairs, and never had this happen to me before, where I literally went, if I throw myself down the stairs, it'd be fucking easier because I couldn't walk. And I literally came sideways down the stairs. My legs were screwed.
But that's what it takes.
But that's what it takes.
Does.
Like I went on to squat over 200 kilos. And I had a good squat at the time anyway, but you know what I mean?
Something worked there.
Something worked. So I think it's, again, coming down to that then, as a novice and beginner, is looking at who's around you. I suppose looking at your coach, looking at if you've got someone. If you don't, I would highly recommend that if you're a beginner or a novice, that you get a coach, right?
Yeah.
That unless you have got a really good fucking idea, like you grew through trial and error on yourself.
Experiments.
I was a human test dummy.
Exactly, you were a human test dummy, and then you've got a few of us human test dummies that were going, you know what, we'll do it. We're a bit nuts, and look, expanded. But you have got those years of knowledge and personal experience, plus you've now done your masters in strength and conditioning. So your overall knowledge, as well as your experience with athletes. I suppose from my perspective, like one of the reasons when I was coming away from powerlifting, when I was still in powerlifting, was I needed to find somebody who was specific to my sport, because I knew I wasn't going to get any better just staying within this CrossFit kind of system. So, which is why eventually, by chance, fell across to yourself. So it was getting that coach and then learning and getting stronger and then into the strongman. So I think for beginners and novices, they really need to look at getting someone. And again, we've said this before, don't look at the best athletes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
or don't look at just the social media and go, oh my God. Or if you're going to look at their athletes, see how many of those athletes have been with them for a very long time.
Yeah.
The length of the longevity of those athletes. If you've got a coach there where people just come in and go in willy-nilly and they're not sticking around, and some of those athletes could be really good athletes, it has to question, okay, is there an issue here? Is it the best fit for me? The best social media out there does not make that person the best coach, I don't think either. And I think we've kind of gone through that one before. Yeah. But I think having that coach and the people around you, again, because not everyone wants to see you succeed. Yeah. Yeah. Not everyone has the same drive or mentality that you have around your training. And again, sometimes you might just like to be that lone wolf that likes to train away and you can become the best. That's your focus. Yeah. But just, I suppose, coaching and programming
makes a big difference.
Makes a massive difference.
Like I wouldn't be here if you hadn't been coaching me. Like absolutely not. I would not have been able to make it this far whatsoever. Like I'm not gonna lie and pretend that I could have figured it out myself. Like, cause it wouldn't. Like even I coach people myself, but I wouldn't be able to coach
for
myself.
Yourself, yeah.
Absolutely not. Like, cause it's just like you'd be blind to certain things, and you know, even like most of the top guys out there, they have somebody else coaching them just because it's just so it just makes so much more sense because like. I see some people try to coach themselves, and it's just like they only do the things that they like doing, and then they don't do the things they don't like doing because they're their coach like. And it's just like that will only bring you so far. And I don't think that you're not good enough to have a coach. You know, everybody starts from somewhere. Like, and I feel a lot of people can be very apprehensive on actually going to somebody for a coach because like, oh, like you know, I'm not at their skill level, or I'm not good for them and everything. Like, which is, you know, it's bullshit. Like, I mean, anybody can get stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most people as well, like you know, do need to get a coach because they're not going to be honest with themselves in their effort, and they're not going to be honest with themselves in where they're going wrong, and maybe their technique. And it's accountability, like even like you were on about accessories earlier. Like, how hard do we push our accessories?
Yeah, very hard.
So, like, again, back to some of the online novice guys I have at the moment. You know, I'm asking them all, how much weight can you good morning? You know, for your 3 sets of 6, 3 sets of 8. Like, I'm getting guys, you know, that are pulling, you know, over 200 kilos, saying 40 kilos, 50 kilos, 60 kilos. And I'm like, lads, Mary is 60 kilos and Maria, and they're probably doing like 70, 80 kilo good mornings. Yeah. You know, they're doing RDLs with 120 kilos for sets of 8. They're doing split squats there with 30 kilos per hand. Gail up in the north, she sent me a video one day doing lunges. I think with a barbell. I think it was the first time she done lunges in months, 80 kilos. Walking up and down the gym.
Jeez Christ.
Like, you know, and these athletes are really good. You do split squats with 50 kilos per hand. That's 100 kilo Bulgarian split squat. You know, you can do RDL, even stiff leg deadlifts at
770 kilos, like,
You know, these are the things you need to be looking towards. You need to be pushing your accessories as hard as you can. And you need your coach to catch you out and go, hey, there's little women in my gym doing that. You need to be.
I've had that conversation with lads in here and like doing walking lunges with like 10 kilos and they're big lads, right? And like going, excuse me, we have Mary is using a weighted vest and 25 kilo dumbbells, or that's an elite athlete. We're like, well, you're a grown man. You should be like, there is no excuse. Why are you not pushing yourself forward? And if you're not continually pushing yourself forward, then where do you think you're going to go? Like you have to keep pushing up the ante.
This is called, you know, like strongman for a reason. Like, I mean, like it's going to be heavy, and it should be heavy. And it's just like if you're afraid of, you know, like doing heavy Bulgarian split squats or lunges or RDLs, well then, you know, you got to ask yourself, like, is this something for you? Like if you're not really willing to put the work in, the proper work, and again, you know, maybe just focus on the events, and you're not actually going to push the things that will make you stronger. Well, then it's just like, you know, like ask yourself, you know, like why are you actually doing this? Because if you're not willing to make those sacrifices, you know, you're not going to make it that far.
I think as well, like a lot of people, you know, Bulgarian split squats with body weight set of 10 will burn.
It will burn. It's hard.
They're not nice. Like if I was coaching myself, I wouldn't put them in my program.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's a lie. But anyway,
a good morning, like for a set of 8 and 40 kilos, you feel your hamstrings burning.
Oh, they're
disgusting. But people think they feel the burn and that's enough.
Yeah,
it's not. Like you have to push so much further because your body can do so much more than you think it's capable of.
Because I remember a few years ago where like I hated doing Bulgarian split squats mainly because I couldn't keep my balance, and then I was doing, instead of doing like step ups. Then you came over to me and you're like, why are you doing step ups? And I was just like, I'm terrible at Bulgarian split squats. And you were like, you're never going to get good at them if you don't do them. And then it was just like, after then, I was just like, well, shit. Like, I remember that was about 3 years ago. And then I just started off just doing body weights.
Exactly.
Kind of maybe pausing at the bottom and then getting used to it and then like pushing it further and further. And then I feel as well, like, you know, having the girls here, like yourself, Mary, Maria, Kayla, and that, with seeing what the weights they're doing, I'm like, right, if they're doing 20, 25 kilos split squats, I've got to be doing like at least twice as much as they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say about the Bulgarian split squats, because there's another guy that come in here, and again, he was terrified. He wouldn't do the Bulgarian split squats. He'd actually damaged I think he broke his knees weirdly in some freak thing that he was doing. And also was only squatting to a box. And again, he was very, very nervous and very like new to the sport. And I was trying to explain to him the same thing. Like you adapt. So if you can't do it one way, you adapt and then you progress.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the same with, I had a lady, a new woman who started, she's doing a strong woman, and she had never been able to do walking lunges. And I'm like, you're going to be able to do the walking lunges. And she said, no, I've never been able to do them. She said, I could only do them stationary, or my previous coach should have to walk beside me and hold me up. I was like, absolutely not. You're going to be doing walking lunges. Within 20 minutes, she was doing walking lunges. They weren't the most fantastic walking lunges, but it was still progression. And then now she's out there doing walking lunges with 5 kilo, 10 kilo dumbbells. So she's gone over the course of 4 weeks.
She's in her 50s.
She's mid to late 50s, yeah. So there's always there's never, we always talk about excuses being, again, when you're starting off and, well, I couldn't do it because of this and I can't do it because of that. Or you only can do that because you're so good now. Where the fuck do you think we came from?
Yeah, exactly.
Find a way.
Find a way to do it.
Find someone that can coach you into doing it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And if that's not working, and you've got a coach and you're not seeing the progress that, say, somebody who started the same time as you. Now, it might not be just the coach. It could be there's other issues going on. But if that coach can't spot that and isn't working with you to go, okay, what is the issue? Why is this not progressing? Why can't you do this basic movement? And they're not kind of guiding you in the direction of saying, well, you may need to see a physio or a movement specialist or whatever, then is that the right fit?
Yeah.
If they're just throwing shit at you, throwing program at you, go, no, you'll be fine.
Care?
Yeah. Do they actually care?
Yeah. You know? So, I know when the few clients I have, I genuinely do care about them getting better. And I especially when it comes up to them doing their testing, I get excited because they're putting their work in and everything. So it's just you really need to, for a good coach, it's not just about the money, it's actually making the difference in people's lives.
Exactly, whether they're competitive or not.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's I feel like that's what makes a big difference, because there are a lot of people out there who will just throw out the same program to 10 different people and be kind of like that's it, and then they won't actually change it to your specific needs and everything. So find somebody who does care about your own progress as well, because it will make a difference.
Yeah.
Again, that's absolutely true. Because passion will trump everything.
It will, yeah.
If someone's really passionate about seeing you improve and seeing, the sport better and everything else, they're going to care more. Yeah. They're going to check in more, and they're going to make the changes when it needs to be made.
I think, even from us, and I say from my perspective, I like that lady there who was saying who's going into Masters, and she's very new, and it's a massive challenge for her, and really big goals that she has. It's equally as important for me to see her be able to do the log that is for the weight for the competition as it is for seeing Maria or Mary or any of the other girls come back with a podium position. Do you know what I mean? So there isn't, for me, I don't have a kind of divider going, well, I'd actually prefer to spend more time working with these than these, because it's that growth you see and that push forward in the beginners and intermediates to know. Even she would have said to me, I'm never going to be as good as whoever. I'm like, but why would you think that? Why do you think that you wouldn't be able to get to a certain stage? Don't limit that. It will take time.
Yeah, it's possible.
But nothing is impossible when it comes to that, that respect. It's just about the work you're going to put in and how long it's going to take to get there.
Yeah, I got one as well recently. She'd be a novice strongwoman, and it's the first novice strongwoman I've actually coached in years. Her best squat's 75 kilos. Her best deadlift 100 kilos, and I'm loving actually coaching her. It's so much fun because it's so different to what I've done for so long. I've been coaching novice men over the last couple of years, but I haven't coached novice women in years because you take over most of them. Yeah. So it's actually so much fun, lads, to be taking on someone it's like a clean slate. It's just totally fresh, And the way it's just, things are a little bit different as well. Obviously be doing with you or Mary or any of the other women. It's nice. It is. It's fun. It's great to see, you know, the newer people coming up through with that. Like.
Yeah, I suppose that's the same with me with that lady as well. Like, it's the first time I've had a Masters athlete. I'm a Masters athlete, so now it's really weird having a Masters athlete.
First person older than you.
That is the first person older than me that I'm actually training. But it's really good because it, like I said, I have learned through Matt what we've had to do over the past couple of years. The past year, perhaps, it's got fucking worse. But it's really interesting as a coach to be able to go, okay, now I have to think of dealing with this person who is a novice, but is also Masters and effectively should be Masters 2. If we had a Masters 2 category for women, Lynn, if you're listening ever, we want a Masters 2 category for the women. But yeah, so it's, I think, again, she took that choice. She decided she wanted to be specific. She really liked the sport. She said, who am I going to seek out? I'm going to seek out this person. She'd met me through Strongman Island. But it was sport specific. So she'd been working with a PT before that. The PT was very good for her and, you know, got her to a lovely stage because she'd only just come into the gym, say, a year before, and had some horrible health issues that she'd recovered from. So it was just another chapter in the book for her. But she came to go, okay, I want to do strongwoman. Where do I go? I'm going to go to a strongwoman coach. So for the beginners and novices and all the intermediates out there, I suppose that's we all agree that would be something.
So are there any other mistakes we tend to see the novice guys doing? Like even
equipment.
Equipment, down to equipment. Yeah, like personal equipment, your shoes, your belts,
I remember seeing a video of someone come out at a competition with fair play, Cerberus, but every piece of equipment, right, as a novice, there was knee sleeves, there was wrist